What's up, Dragonsworn? Welcome to another episode of Phantology. We're covering Fires of Heaven, Wheel of Time, Book 5. I'm Stephen, and I have Kaden and Jake on with me. This is our typical Wheel of Time crew, so Kaden's a first-time reader, Jake is our expert, I'm somewhere in between. You can decide for yourself how in between I am after listening to my attempts to summarize the book here. But this was probably the first book, I would say, where I guess the context of the series changes after the big expansion of the world in The Shadow Rising. So, Jake and Kaden, what do you guys think of this one?
I liked it. I don't know. In the last episode, we talked about how everyone seems to think that number 4 is the best, and this one was just as entertaining to me as the previous book. I thought it had a lot of really interesting plot lines. It started out slow, like kind of all his books do, and then ramp up. And I felt like it was a little short overall, but it was overall really good. Really liked it.
So, only 900 pages, not quite long enough for you?
Well, yeah, maybe I'm just used to the longer books, but I got my fill.
I feel like when I first read it, this book was the first one where I was so awestruck by how all these little actions that have happened by characters in the first 3 or 4 books kind of come to fruition in the sense that you get to see how the consequences of those actions affect the world at large. Just that the world gets so much bigger, and so decisions people have made start to affect nations and the total current political environment.
I also think that in this book, for the first time, all the different viewpoints were interesting to me. Where in previous books, there's been some that like not really a lot happened, and I kind of just wanted to skip over them or read through them pretty quickly. But it seemed like even though there's some slow parts, for the most part, there was something important that happened in every single viewpoint along the way. Something major, not just minor setup as well.
So, you weren't interested in the Supergirls and Tenchiko in the previous book? Is that what you're referring to?
That's exactly what I'm saying. But they definitely, I thought their story in this one was way more entertaining. And
I feel like I like their story in Tanchiko more for the most part. I feel like their finale was cooler in this one, but the normal day to day throughout the book I wasn't as excited about.
yeah, that's fair.
But there were also a lot more in terms of different plot lines happening. And it's funny to say that in a book where Perrin's not in it at all, but the whole thing with the White Tower and just several different factions that are kind of, or groups of characters that are converging there, I think that adds quite a lot and raises the stakes because it's no longer just Rand and Mad and Perrin and friends. It's like the entire world is now in upheaval.
Yeah, and I agree with that. That's kind of what I mean by how you start to see the consequences of all these decisions characters have made in previous books, and like the whole world context now with the White Tower split. There's a rebel Aes Sedai group, the fallout with the Aiel waste and everything.
And I guess we kind of already started talking some spoilers, so we can just kind of go right into it. I think at this point, if you're listening, you've probably already read the book or you're planning on doing so soon enough and don't care to hear some minor things. But let's go into the main meat of the plot. I am going to lead a discussion through here. You guys feel free to jump in with comments. And then at the end, we're going to do our customary top 3 and bottom 3 character rankings. So we kind of watch how our characters progress throughout the series. That's kind of a fun segment at the end. If this is boring, you can skip ahead and jump into that right now. But also, let me mention, if you like Phantology books, check us out at Phantology Books at www.phantologybooks.com. Hop on our Discord and chat with us and tell us what we missed here. We're going to try to cover as much detail as possible, but there's a lot in all these books, so this might be a little high level. So going into it, so we start off with our Forsaken. This is a nice little prologue here where the Forsaken are sitting around and discussing their next plan of action. Specifically, we have Robin, Grandel, Samael, I guess we'll say, and Lanfear. And these guys are going to form an alliance against Rand. The Forsaken are kind of fun. I think they are one of my favorite groups of adversaries in fantasy, where they all kind of have distinct personalities and motivations, but they all also have this loyalty to the Dark One. But at the same time, you're like, how much of a loyalty is it really to the Dark One, or is it just to themselves in their own attempt to get power? So that is interesting, and we'll see more of these guys. We see several of them in this book. And then a few other things that happen in the prologue. We catch up again with Swan and Leanne and Min and Logain, who get trapped in a barn while they're on the run. They end up accidentally burning down the barn, and they get locked in with, well, not locked in, but they encounter Gareth Bryn, who is Morgase's and Caemlyn's former general that's been sent off by Morgase, who is under the control of Gabriel, another Forsaken. So kind of what you were saying, Jake, like the world's expanding right away, and we get this view through the eyes of the Forsaken. I think that kind of helps to up the ante a bit.
One thing throughout this whole book that I thought ups the ante and I've complained about in previous books that the Forsaken don't seem very formidable. And I was happy that I think we'll talk about this later on. There are times when the Forsaken actually win or are pretty strong and overcome some of the heroes
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
do some damage. Where it seems like in the previous books, it's like, oh yeah, here are these Forsaken and they're scary, but we're just going to go in at the end and kill them. So that in this book, that really stood out to me overall.
You're kind of saying you need more like an Empire Strikes Back type moment in the series, right? To like
Yeah,
get a sense that the enemy has a chance.
exactly. Yep. Like we've talked about how Rand, potentially, most likely will end up breaking the world, and who knows what bad stuff will happen. But you still feel like in the end he's going to win. And yeah, you kind of get the feeling like, oh, they don't have a chance. He is the dragon. He's going to be super powerful, or all the heroes are going to come together and win, and it's just dandy. And now this time, there's actually like bad things happening. Yeah, the evil side has some power and can do some damage.
And the dragon himself, I mean, Rand has got a limited, at best, grip on sanity here. So that kind of makes you question his ability to win.
Not only insanity too, but his power seems limited. Where like in the last book, at the beginning of book 4, there's the attack from the Murdral and Trollocs, and he kind of just like walks out and kills them all. Where this one, there's definitely signs of, yeah, he's going insane, but he's also not as strong and can't do as much as he want to, which I think was good to make him a little more human.
I think one way you also see that is the fact that he has Asmodean, who is shielded and tied to him now as his teacher. Asmodean, obviously a Forsaken himself. So you can tell that Rand is still a step below these guys, and he's got his personal pet Forsaken teaching him what he can in order to power up as quickly as possible.
Speaking of Asmodean, I kind of wanted more of a redemption arc from him, just because, yeah, he's his pet, and he's the whole time there's like, Asmodean's not going to change. He's still a Forsaken, even though he's been cut off from the Dark One, and that doesn't look like it's going to happen after this book. But I do like the relationship that they have, where Rand is, yeah, keeping him on a leash and tries to show that he's more powerful, but really he's, yeah, dependent on him, asking questions and needs his help.
Yeah, in terms of redemption arcs, I can't think of a whole lot in Wheel of Time. It's kind of like if you're evil, and if you're good, you're good, and you have troubles either way. But allegiances are pretty black and white.
Yeah, I don't know if they're really. I mean, there are people who grow into being good and grow into being bad, but never really a reversal that I can think of. Man, whoever our listeners are gonna like destroy us in the comments and find like a perfect example of a redemption arc that we're missing here, but I can't think of any.
And that's not to say that if you're good now, you're never going to make mistakes, and you're never like there's not a possibility of you turning to the shadow, because that is certainly something that can very much happen. But I guess it's not one of the stronger themes of the Wheel of Time, we'll say. Okay, so the plot continues, and we go back to Ruidian, where the action of the Shadow Rising concluded. A few things are happening there. Moraine is getting all the Terangriel out of the tower in Ruidian, as Rand makes plans to get the Aiel out of the waste. He's learning from Asmodean, and Matt attracts a follower, a lover, if you will, in Melindra, a Shadow maiden. So his attempts to play Maiden's Kiss finally win a little bit here. And Matt, he's a bit of a ladies' man, or he thinks he is, at least, and he's got his first catch here, and we'll see how it goes for him, though. And then speaking of romances, Rand and Aviendha begin to kind of develop something of a relationship that we will also see where that one goes.
Far to the snows.
Yeah.
Can't get me too excited yet. We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there.
It's going to take you to Jake's favorite chapter. We will not forget that one. But Kaden, kind of like what you were saying, like a bit of a slow start, and maybe this is part of it. Like we're here, kind of recapping what happened in the previous book, sitting around, and we're off on our next adventure. But most books begin like this, right? Like you've always got the exposition, and this one we didn't have 17 chapters in tier, so that's an improvement.
Yeah, for sure. And when I said, yeah, it's a little slower at the beginning, I think that's just compared. I wasn't bored. That wasn't a criticism of the book as a whole. Just the end, there seemed to be like back to back action. As soon as you hit like the last, 25%, there, even if it's not the full climax, there's still like major plot points you're hitting in the front, and or at least the beginning of the book, you're setting up for those plot points. But yeah, definitely not 17 chapters of tier. Much better than that.
So from here, we get the plot continues to move through another shadow spawn attack. We're still doing this. We're still sending random groups of Trollocs, and I guess this time we've upped the ante a little bit because we have the Dark Hounds. We've seen these before, but they are a new and more ferocious enemy that is going to replace just regular hordes of Trollocs. And Rand uses Balefire, and Moraine gets upset at him because he is not being responsible in his use of Balefire. And I think Lews Therin kind of comes in, and we get some back and forth, and we learn what Balefire can actually do. It makes time run backwards. If you're hit by Balefire, you're taken out of the pattern completely, and that can unravel some of your past actions. This is really nice foreshadowing for the end of the book. So that was good. Also, Moraine, who I mentioned had a bit of a run-in with Rand over Balefire, really needs Rand. She feels like she really needs Rand to listen to her. And this is probably related to what she's seen in Ruidian and what she's experienced with the Elfin. As a result, she basically says, Rand, I will, swear fealty to you. I will obey you as long as you promise to listen to my counsel. So this is a pretty big sacrifice for her and a pretty big paradigm shift here. I mean, consider first book to fifth book, right? What a reversal. Where Moraine was leading Rand and the Emmons-Fielders out, and they were clueless, and now she has sworn fealty to Rand al'Thor. Like, did this hit for you guys? Did this seem like it was in character? I mean, it's a pretty big admission of humility for Moraine.
There's two parts of this that I thought was interesting. The first was there's a part right after where Egwene's like, why would you do this? And Moraine's like, it's just like Saidin, you have to surrender to it to be able to control it. So she makes it come off like she, is in full control still, even though she's sworn an oath to him, which I think is more Moraine's character, where even though it may not be going how she wants it to, she's doing all that she can, and she's, going to be cool, collected, and make the best of it. The other part of this is it does seem to make me think that she seems kind of desperate, which I think is kind of foreshadowing for things later in the book based on like what you said, what she saw in Ruidian. And even from this part when I was reading it, I'm like, Moraine keeps saying she's not going to be around for forever. Something's coming. Something's going to happen. Who knows what it's going to be? But those were the two things that kind of struck me about that part.
Yeah, I think her response to Egwene with the surrendering to Sidar was more of a Moraine is still the Aes Sedai, Egwene is the accepted, and so she's giving an Aes Sedai answer. But I think deep down she is desperate, like you're saying. She realizes that she doesn't have all the time in the world to be with Rand and guide him, and he's becoming harder and harder to control. And so, she's doing what she feels like she has to at least stay by his side. I really like the role reversal there, comparing their relationship to the first two books where she was just this kind of awe-inspiring not really
Right,
humanized.
right.
You can't really question her, so mysterious, to like, listen, I'm the dragon, do what I say kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess it's not a complete admission of humility here, because she is not willing to admit to Egwene what's really going on. But as the reader, we can kind of read between the lines here and realize this is not. I mean, this is not what Moraine would have wanted, but she's kind of boxed into a corner here.
She does have a point with the surrendering to Sidar thing, like, in a way, by swearing this oath to Rand, she's still going to have some sway there, not full control, but
And she does have more success, I think, than she had in the past by doing it. I mean, throughout the book, she's giving him lots of advice and talking to him, and whether or not he's going to take it to heart, he's at least listening. That happens a lot throughout the whole book. So I think she was successful. Whether or not she wanted to do it, it worked.
Moraine is probably one of the best Aes Sedai, like, as a person, that we see in the books. And even with that, she still epitomizes, like, the Aes Sedai society, like, as a whole society, their greatest weakness, which is like so much arrogance, and how she first decides to handle Rand, just like, and she's not even the
Yeah,
most arrogant of the Aes Sedai, but just that idea that, listen, this is my role, you do what I say, like, just accept that. And so it's interesting to see her have to learn to grow out of that to adapt to the situation. And it really highlights her, like, the dedication she has to her cause of guiding him.
yeah. She's willing to sacrifice quite a bit of personal clout to do this, and not every Aes Sedai would be willing to do so. So it's the culmination of what she's been out to do, really, for not her entire life, but for most of her
Most of her
professional
life,
life.
yeah.
Yeah,
I think you also see that in Suan after she's been stilled right at this beginning, where she still finds a drive to continue on. You know, she's still working at the same purpose she's been working on her whole life. So you get that same determination you see in Moraine and her as well, where Liana might not have been as dedicated without Suan pushing her, but Suan still has that same drive, I think.
Yeah.
kind of the same thing there too, where Swan is not willing to completely abandon a lot of her pride either, even though she can't channel any longer. Although she's put in a place where she is a laundress and she hates it, but she's backed. She also has backed herself into a corner. So this is maybe like a good comparison between our two former BFFs here.
Also, another part to Suan that I liked is that she was stilled. It's another one of those, like there's some adversity there.
Yeah.
It's not just she doesn't have the power anymore to rely on, and I do like her pride, and I kind of dislike how she puts it all her chores and the laundry off on Min, and just kind of like I'm better than you still, which kind of bugs me because I feel like Min is much cooler than Suan.
Yeah, Min's awesome. Yeah. But I do get why, like, she has so many plots and, like, plans in her mind. She doesn't have time to be weighed down with, I guess, the menial tasks.
The laundry of Gareth Bloody Brine, or Bloody Gareth Brine, or whatever she calls him.
But yeah, I 100% agree. Min's so cool. She needs more airtime all the time, every book.
So if you listen to Wheel of Time, you know that Jake loves Min, and Ben, who's kicked off the podcast, loves Elaine. And speaking of Elaine, well, I guess let me also say that so Rand and the Aiel are now going to head after the Shido, who under Culloden are going to attack Carrion. So, like you said, Jake, the world is expanding, and now we're having nations clashing here, and this is kind of our first big instance of this. And I think they end up calling this the second Aiel War, and we'll see how this goes in a second. But back to Elaine and Nynaeve, who were left in Tinchica after the previous book. So they're trying to get back to Tar Valon, and they are traveling through Amadicia. I think they come across some Yellow Aja people. They learn what forkroot is. This is a new edition of this tea that can make a woman not able to channel. So they're temporarily shielded and captured, and they escape, and they run into Glad, who is now a White Cloak, and they hide in the circus that is run by this guy named Valen Luca. So there's kind of an adventure going on here. Stakes are not nearly as high. So I know, Kaden, you said that you liked their plot better here than Tenchico, but like, were you into this? Because lower bar, right? Like, at least you
Yeah,
don't
I'm not.
feel
It wasn't
like.
like my favorite part of the book by any means, but I did think it was more interesting. I liked how Nynaeve had to meet with Massima. I thought that part and seeing what had become of him and the rest of the Shinarans was really cool. I like that Galad and the White Cloaks are involved here too. I just thought the political side of it was really interesting to see how the world was being affected by all these different powers. You have Rand kind of through Massima, and then you have the White Cloaks. My one critique of, I guess, Nynaeve and Elaine, it seems like, well, all one good thing I like about the Wheel of Time is that all the female characters are really strong characters. They all seem to have a temper though, which annoys me a little bit.
So sometimes too strong.
Yeah, a little too strong. And I still think I think you can have a strong female character without having to have a strong temper. And it just the temper back and forth between Nynaeve and Elaine gets on my nerves a little bit through this part, and I feel like their dynamic there, like some personality changes, might have made it a little more entertaining. Or
Yeah. Wheel of Time characters by rule are always very hot-headed and are very poor communicators.
Every work of fiction has poor communication. That's
Yeah,
the foundation of a plot right there.
it would be boring otherwise.
It was like one or two books back though, with when Egwene was with Nynaeve and Elaine was like, "Oh my gosh, Egwene and Nynaeve always fighting." And so it's interesting to see that without like that third peg there, now Elaine is fighting with Nynaeve just as much.
we'll get to the Brigitta part of the plot here in a minute, but it seems like even when she, jumps in, she gets along with Elaine, but has issues with Nynaeve too. And so it's like,
Yeah.
even with you throw in another woman, and it's still like they also hot tempered. I'm like, come on, like maybe she could be the peacemaker, like you're saying with Egwene and Elaine. But
Yeah.
I do think this is a good book for Nynaeve, and I think she grows a lot from beginning to end, or even, comparing like early books to where she gets to by the end of this one, because I think Nynaeve has a very significant portion of the point of view chapters in this one. She has a big leadership role as well to play here, as she's kind of leading them to safety, and then has some things with Mohidian, and eventually plays a big role in the battle in the climax. We actually had someone on Twitter ask us a question that we wanted to address in this one about Nynaeve. They said that Nynaeve was their favorite character, and they thought this was a great book for her to advance. And did we feel the same way? And I guess I'm saying yes, I did. And what did you guys think as far as like Nynaeve advancing throughout the book?
my favorite part of Nynaeve's advancement was her dealing with her fear after there's a run-in with Mogideon we'll get to, right? And she comes off not so good. And then she's afraid to go into the dream world. I like seeing that in Nynaeve and seeing her being afraid, and that kind of impedes her for a little bit, but then I like seeing her overcome that in the end of the book. And then, yeah, overall, I think just power wise too, just her whole transformation in this book was really, really fun to watch.
Yeah, I agree. I think this book does a really good job of adding more dimensions to her. I think we've always known that she's kind of this more bark than bite, like she is always trying to look tougher than she is. But it was good to see her, especially with Brigitta, like we talked about, how just the shame and like how remorseful you could see her become after Brigitta's pulled out of the world of dreams, and that kind of like throws off the whole dynamic because she's used to like snapping back at people, but she feels like she can't do that anymore because of what she did. And then, like you said, Kaden, her overcoming that and having, she kind of has like here's a redemption arc, kind of like a mini redemption arc. She redeems herself for the problems she caused and the fear that she had, and overcoming all that by the end of the book. So I think this is a really good book for Nynaeve, and she shines a lot in her plot.
So I guess we'll see where Nynaeve ends up in our power rankings at the end. Speaking of Brigitta, this is kind of the next thing that happens. So we've kind of touched on this indirectly, but there's this showdown with Mohidian in Tel'aran'rhiad, and she's shot by Brigitta and runs off. But then Brigitta gets cast out of the world of dreams into the waking world. She's about to die, but Elaine then saves her by bonding her as her warder. So this was a cool idea that a hero that was tied to the wheel could be taken out of that and then put into the current age. it hits a lot of Robert Jordan's themes of rebirth and the cyclical nature. But it's also interesting that now things are kind of messed up, and Brigida is part of the waking world, and she wasn't really supposed to be.
When reading this part, I wondered if that was Mogideon's intention to like send her out of the world of dreams, or that was just like on accident of the attack. So
Hmm.
I didn't know that that was like intentionally part of her power, where she was like, "Hey, I'm going to send you out of the world of dreams and into life."
Or maybe that was really the only way she could attack her.
Yeah.
Possibly,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, I was assumed she meant to, but I don't know.
The other part of this I do like is, I mean, Elaine has her own growth at this part too, where she bonds her, which hasn't been taught to her, and she's just seen it and seen it done before. And then she'll have some. She thinks she can make the Tangrial or the Dom. You also see some of
Right.
her growth through this part as well, from Brigida on, but that I thought was really good.
Right, yeah. A lot of our characters in this book, especially, are able to pick up on new weaves kind of just by observing what other people are doing, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, sure, I can replicate that." It's amazing how quickly these guys are able to advance with like little to no formal schooling. They just watch what's happening and do it. So that's impressive.
They're powerful.
Yeah, they're our heroes, right?
Yeah.
Speaking of weaves that people are learning, maybe this is the time for Jake, your favorite chapter in the entire series.
Well, maybe pause on that. I did want to talk about Massima and Galad more. Like, kind of going back to this like avalanche of consequences. I think the last time we hear of Massima is book 3, and the last time he's mentioned, we don't even really know it's him. They just hear that there's a like somebody preaching about the Dragon Reborn, and then it's cool to see how he went from in book 1 and 2 kind of antagonistic towards Rand to worshiping him at the beginning of book 3 to causing this really toxic cult of personality with the Dragon Sworn.
Yeah,
So I think that's a really cool evolution to see. I feel like that kind of person you've seen in other books, but it's been cool to see his evolution from the beginning, what character he was, even though it's not really a focus. And then also how I love how Nynaeve asks Uno, but essentially Massima to secure a boat for her and Galad to secure a boat for her at different times because they both ask how they can help. And then they end up causing like a mini war because they're both trying to secure them passage. And we see ripple effects of that in later books as well. Like that, how her asking these two people to get her a boat end up causing more bloodshed when they could have just worked together and nothing would have happened.
hmm. I actually don't really remember the ripple effects here, but I guess we'll get to that in the future books. So let's not do spoilers now.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess you wouldn't really expect the White Cloak and the prophet of the dragon to work together, would you?
No, but like it's a classic miscommunication thing again where they both have the same goal, but they see each other as obstacles to obtaining that same goal. Just a
Yeah,
little
yeah,
plot irony.
yeah. I think not only the Aes Sedai are too arrogant, but most every character is too arrogant to
Yeah.
take the time to explain to any other person what they are doing and why. And oh, could you help
Yeah.
me, by the way?
Well, Kaden, what are your thoughts on Galad right now? Or Glad?
I went from not liking him to kind of liking him. Like I didn't like him like when he became a white cloak. I'm like, you're just dumb. But it totally fit him at the same time because
Yeah.
that's his character, right? Like, you 100% see it coming. But then I do like. It seems like his concern for Elaine is genuine,
Hmm.
and he overlooks that they're Aes Sedai, right, and kind of breaking the law by being in Amadisia to try and get them out and get them safe, which I thought was points for Galad there
Yeah.
because Elaine was always worried, like, hey, he's never been faced with two right choices that conflict each other. Like, what does he do? So I thought Galad scored points in this book for
Yeah.
me. We'll see what happens in the future.
I really like him now. When I first read the books, I didn't like him so much, but I like his character now. But one thing I think is like interesting, and I don't know if it's just supposed to represent the morals and values of the time, but like people do not respect human life almost at all. Like Galad is known as being this person who does what is right, right? But if it comes down to it, if someone tries to stop him, he has like no qualms in just killing people. Like, okay, you're not letting me do this. I guess I'm just gonna kill you. Or like if there's a brawl, he'll just draw a sword super quick and kill people as an easy solution. I don't know. I just think that's interesting
Yeah,
difference
yeah.
in morals.
So you're saying that if we believe the stipulation, or if we believe the postulation that Galad always makes the right choice, and if his right choice is including killing people, then thus we conclude that people in the Wheel of Time have no moral value in human life, and it's fine to kill people, and that is the right thing to do.
I feel like he's a little too not eager. He's never eager to kill, but he's okay with it. Where in today's standards, that would be like preserving human life would go far be like above other protocols.
Oh
Again, I
yeah,
mean, it's like a medieval Renaissance time, so I guess human life back then probably wasn't really valued either.
yeah. I mean, imagine if COVID broke out then, no one would care. They'd be just like, oh, the plague, whatever. If you get it, too bad.
I mean, yeah, I guess. Anyways, this is a little moral pontification.
I've never been a huge fan of Galad, to be honest. The idea that he's always going to do the right thing just kind of struck me as a little lame. It's like, you're too much of a goody two shoes. Let's have some more gray characters who are like, embattled with different types of choices. Never really got behind him. Not a favorite.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I feel like his drive to always do what's right is what makes him an interesting character.
I like the contrast between him and Gawain in
Yeah,
previous. I think that's what makes him interesting is you have both of them together that have the different personalities. And at the end of the last book with Gawain, where he couldn't decide if he was going to let Min escape or not, and you don't know where his loyalties lie, you start to kind of be like, oh, maybe I don't like Gawain as much, and then you have Galad
yeah.
helping him, so you're like, oh, maybe I like Galad more, and so that kind of tug between both of them was interesting as a reader.
You definitely start to notice that when they're together, they temper each other's personalities a little bit, and the more they're apart, the more they,
Go to an extreme.
yeah, kind of, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense for sure. Okay, Jake, I think it's
Okay,
time.
yeah, it's
Far
time.
snows.
Far
Far
snow.
snows. You've been waiting for this through 4 podcasts. It's finally time. I think we might be a little out of order in the events of Fires of Heaven, but
Yeah,
this is where it's coming in. So lead us in. The ultimate chapter in the entire series.
I was probably like 13 when I first read this, so I wasn't
This was
quite.
your awakening.
I wasn't like I thought I knew what happened, but also I was like, wait, did this happen? But for a lot of reasons. First of all, I didn't realize until probably my like second or third read through that him and Aviendha travel all the way to Shanchan. So
Yeah.
backstory, she's bathing, right? And he walks in on her, which is interesting because
Ooh
usually
la
she doesn't
la.
care about nudity at all,
Uh
but
huh.
at this time she did. And then she panics and
Well, I
somehow,
think that kind of represents her growing feelings for Rand, right?
right, yeah, yeah. But she panics and she creates a gateway, right? That's the first
Yep.
gateway we've
Yep.
seen
Yeah.
from a third ager. Or is it fourth age? I don't remember, to be honest.
This is the third age.
Third age, yeah.
I'm like 90% sure.
I might, yeah, okay. But yeah, and then she just bolts through and ends up in Shanchan of all places. But when I first read it, I didn't realize, or it ended up in Shandar. I think that's the name of the continent. I didn't realize that's where they went. I just figured they went like to Falma or something where the Shanchan were.
And it's significant because at the end, I mean, they have this encounter with them, and
Yeah,
then Rand takes the head of the spear
and use it.
from them, and that becomes kind of like a symbol head for
Yeah,
his conflict with the Shan as well.
yeah. Also, don't they see some Grom out there as well?
They're mentioned. I don't think they see him, but
They don't see him.
the San-Chan are like, hey, or one of them during that conversation mentions the group.
Yeah. So yeah, they end up there. Rand's chasing after her. He finds her like pretty much. No, she's not frozen, right? I don't know. They do a little battle
No,
with some
she is.
Shanchan. Is she
She
frozen?
she's like frozen and passed out.
Yeah.
And in order to keep her alive, they have to share the body heat,
Body
of
heat
course.
in the igloo
Yep,
of love. Yeah.
in the igloo of love, and that is going to, upon
Love shack.
waking, they It's a perfect situation for the consummation of their relationship is what we'll say. Maybe that's what you understood when you were 13.
Well, I remember because I think like in the book it like they wake up, look at each other, realize they're naked, and start kissing, and then it like fades away and like fades back, and I think one of them is like putting their clothes back on, and then Rand mentions we need to get married now, and I was like,
Yeah,
I think I know what happened as a little 13-year-old.
you and Rand are about the same level of innocence.
Yeah, it was a good. It's a
Rand
good age.
assumes they must immediately marry. So when I read this the first time, somehow, like when I was flipping the pages, two of the pages stuck together, and I flipped and I missed like the critical passage here. So I even skipped the fade to black part, and I
Dang.
woke up and like next thing I don't remember exactly what page I skipped or what happened, but I was very confused. I don't know when I realized what actually happened. Is probably towards the end when Lanfear starts to get upset, and you realize that they are pretty romantically involved. But I was so confused by this part until probably like the next time I read through it. I was like, oh, that's when it all goes down. Okay.
That was by far was like the steamiest thing I'd ever read up to that point. It was a fade to black. Anyways, what were your thoughts, Caden?
I was like, yes, get Elaine out of here. Let's go.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah. So, what are your?
Correct opinion, Caden.
Yeah,
Correct opinion.
definitely correct opinion.
I told you guys that in the last episode. I'm an Aviendha fan, so I was
She's
really,
awesome.
yeah.
So you have right now you have Avienda for sure,
Yep.
Elaine, Egwene, and Min. Any others that have expressed interest towards Rand?
Random people,
Lanfear,
Lanfear.
maybe a Bear Lane.
Yeah,
That's what I was gonna say.
Lanfair
Barely.
has expressed a little bit of interest
Just a
in
little
him.
bit, yeah. So who
Yeah.
out of all the women who have crushed on Rand or that Rand has crushed upon, who's your vote for
Oh, Aviendha by far,
Avienda?
100%. Yeah.
Now, is that just because of current,
Oh, I
relationship
would have said that
status
in the
here,
in the
or
last book. That's what I would have said. I was here. I just thought Aviendha as a character is way. I just like her character more than
Yeah,
the other people who have are pursuing him. I like how strong she is. Like she's a formidable warrior. I just think I like her personality and how she interacts with Rand too. I like their culture differences and the humor and depth to their relationship it adds. And I think Elaine, just their story isn't very like there's more depth in their relationship so far, and who knows what'll happen in the next, was it 7 books? We still have 8, 9 books we have left. Um,
keep on counting.
it's a lot. But like Elaine, at least in I think it was the 4th book where she goes to him at the beginning. She's like, "Oh, I love you," but I'm like, "What? What were they saw each other like
yeah.
twice, and now they're she's like throwing himself at him." But Aviendha
Oh, come
seems
on,
like
they
there's
were
more.
kissing in the corners in tears. She wrote him the letter, the romantic letter.
Then she
And
wrote him
then
the second letter.
yeah, don't forget the second letter.
Right now, at least, I'm an Aviendha fan. In fact, in the end of the book, when it looked like, spoilers for the end here, we'll get to it, but when she gets killed, I like texted Steven, I'm like losing it. I'm like, hang on, if Aviendha dies right now, like I'm done
Uh-huh.
with the
Uh-huh.
series. Like it's over. In fact, I was so like distraught over Aviendha, I didn't realize Matt and Asmodean had also died. So yeah, I'm a fan.
Wow, enough to forget Matt even. I mean, Matt's everyone's
Well,
favorite.
I actually here I thought they just got hurt when I was like reading it because Rand goes over and like looks specifically at Aviendha and realizes she's dead. Yeah, and you think Asmodean's dead, I guess. When I read back, like he's like charred. Matt, it just seems like he got knocked over. It didn't explicitly say, and I was just absorbed in the moment and didn't realize
Yeah.
it.
Okay, I'm reading the text from Caden. He says in all caps, "Did Avienda just die? 4 exclamation points, 2 question marks. I'm going to lose it." And he spelled lose wrong, so he was losing it.
He smelled like loose Theron.
Yeah, there was like no pause. I like sent that and then went. It was like a 4-hour read right there. There was no breaks. I was finishing that book.
New catchphrase. If you're losing it, spelled LEWS for losing, that means you're going crazy like loose Theron.
All right, all right.
Yeah, make that a meme, Jake.
Is that good?
Make that
is
a
really
meme.
very
All
good.
right. All right.
Good dad joke.
All right.
Yeah.
So okay, so you prefer Aviendha. You want him to end up with Aviendha. I think that's a good choice. I mean, she would bring him back to his roots culturally, you know.
Yeah.
But who do you think he's actually going to end up with?
I don't think he'll
Ooh,
end up
yeah.
with anyone.
No one?
Oh, that's a sorry life.
I think he might die at the end. Like I don't know.
Uh,
I don't know. Like, it just seems like, yeah, there's all this like, yeah, all these relationships. But if he's like gonna go crazy, it seems like it's very bleak, the outlook on life. I don't get why everyone's into him so much. If like a future with him is very unlikely.
personally, you are not interested.
I'm not.
And for that reason, you're out.
Yeah, I'm out for yeah.
But he can still die or go crazy at the end. But maybe he finds love first. You know.
Yeah, and maybe their love is so true that it doesn't matter what's going to happen to him, right? I don't know. The other one I would be okay with is Min.
Min's great. Yeah.
I feel like Min hasn't had a chance, so feel bad for Min here.
Have I mentioned how great Min is yet in this
Oh wait,
podcast?
do you like Min?
You actually have, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know.
Thank you, Jake.
All right.
All right, so Fire Snows happens,
Fire
and
Snows.
love is in the air. Clearly, we're gonna have to change this podcast to a relationship and dating podcast.
I love the power dynamic, how like their relationship kind of changes after that. Before Aviendha like hated spending time around him because she wasn't accepting like her feelings for him. But then after that, like I feel like her confidence comes back 100%. Like she doesn't care. She's like totally fine and just realizes she'll have to explain it to Elaine at some point. But other than that, I feel like their relationship is a lot more healthy after that.
Yeah, I mean, she's increased her status quite a bit. She is, the favored woman of the Dragon Reborn.
She has hand in the relationship.
Yeah,
I think that's a Seinfeld reference.
it is. It's also an inside joke amongst us. She has some power there.
Yeah.
The other thing though, like after, see, I kind of disagree because after she's like, oh, I'll just tell Elaine what happened. It'll be fine, but I don't have to worry about it. Like I have feelings, but I'm not going to act on them. And so yeah, it was maybe a little more healthy because there's not as much tension, but at the same time, she like kind of keeps her distance a little bit. I felt like, and I think that was frustrating for Rand after. So I mean, which is good though, because like I don't know, it's good for the relationship in the book because it's not just like, oh yeah, they're together, great. That would be boring, right? There's still there's more growing and depth of relationship that has to happen. Overall, yes, good, better situation after, but there's still like stuff that has to happen or progression and growth.
Yeah.
Cool.
So going from the fires of love to the fires of battle, I think we're now ready to start fighting for Carrion. And Matt and Egwene and Aviendha are going to channel at the Shido from this big watchtower that they've built. They get into a fight like remotely with Samael, who knocks down their tower, injures Rand pretty badly. My favorite part for Matt in the book is here when Matt is trying to kind of slink off and avoid the conflict as he likes to do, but unwittingly becomes a hero, leads this small band that is going to become more important later on. He leads them and ends up dueling Kuladen, the leader of the Shido from the previous book, and he wins and he kills him. And Matt is pretty much the hero here, as Rand the Dragon Reborn, not his best performance in battle here. So what do you guys think of this fight?
I like the build up with Matt never wanting to go and be the hero, but yet he is. And I'm hoping that like at some point he's going to accept it and just be like, all right, I'm going to own this and be the hero. I am a hero kind of moment. And he hasn't had that yet. And I don't know if he will, but I hope that he will. And I like this internal struggle he has there. And I kind of feel bad. You feel bad for him a little bit. You're like, he just wants to leave, but it's hopeless. His destiny is going to get pulled, and there's no way he's getting out of this.
Right. And it fits his character perfectly.
It does fit his character perfectly. One part of this that is when later on Rand and Matt are talking, and it seems like they're not as good as friends anymore. In that Rand's like, I need to use Matt to win. Sure, he's my friend, but he's more of a tool. And Matt's like, I just want to get away from you. And so it makes me kind of sad that like, hey, here are these friends, at least in the first book, they were like best friends and and everything together, and it seems like this has made them a little more distant.
Yeah, Rand is growing harder, and this was always something that, but like, why aren't they better friends? They used to be, best friends here, and they could really kind of rely on each other in these hard times. But no, that's not the direction they go in at all.
I mean, Rand's getting to the point where he like has like all that mountain heavy duty on his shoulders and trying to figure out how can he like win, how can he survive and do what he's supposed to, and so he's forced to kind of see people as tools and pawns around him. And also like Matt's been kind of a jerk for like all of book 2 to Rand, most of book 1 to be honest.
Sure, yeah, that's
And
fair.
then coming back, I don't know if he doesn't really remember, but he knows he was kind of a jerk. And then also he's like, yeah, cool, you're the Dragon Reborn, but also you're gonna get us all killed, so I got to get out of here. Like
Yeah,
a little selfish on Matt's part, but
yeah.
I understand.
You think maybe they could have bonded like on the long run to Ruidian? Plenty of time to.
They did seem like their friendship was on the up and up when they went to Viridian.
Yeah, and lives were saved, and
Lives were saved. Yeah,
prophecies were revealed. Like, why don't we just have a nice heart to heart? Is really what they need at this point.
yeah. They definitely just grown apart, which is sad.
I mean, like, so in the end, when they die, Matt and Aviendha, like, Rand doesn't even stop and look at Matt, right? He's all about Aviendha. And so you're like, hang on, here's your best friend from birth. And you're just like, I'm mad because Aviendha's dead. I'm going to go kill Robin.
Yeah.
Which,
Yeah.
I did the same thing and didn't really care about Matt either. So
Yeah.
can't blame it. But, I mean, that speaks a little bit to their, like...
Yeah,
Yeah.
Matt and Rand needed their own Far Snows chapter or something to
Yeah.
heal their relationship. Maybe not, obviously.
I don't know if exactly that, but we'll say this was a classic
Yeah.
violation of Bros Before Hoes. The bro code was violated here by Rand.
Yep, agreed.
But he fixed it. He fixed it all. He had a plan.
Did he intend that, though? No way.
No, he didn't. No. Good build up though.
True. Yeah.
And it was foreshadowed well
Yeah.
from the beginning when they were learning about Balefire. I guess we're not quite there yet. So
Yeah.
at this point, we've liberated Carrion, and the Carrion nobility are swearing fealty to him. He's offered the throne, but he declines for now. We'll kind of see what's going to happen with Carrion in the future. Meanwhile, the girls have made it to Saladar finally, to join up with the rebel Aes Sedai, who have decided to, they're going to kind of set up their own version of the tower, and we'll see what's happening here. Swan gets there as well, along with Leanne and Gareth Bryn, and Nynaeve and Swan have some interactions, and Nynaeve is going to teach her how to use Teleranriad ring, so she can still do something. Like Swan's like, hey, I gotta help somehow. She's still got our network of spies, and now she's gonna be able to access the world of dreams. So what do you guys kind of think of Saladar? I thought this was I like this plot point. I like the idea of the rebel tower being set up, and it's really unclear what's going to happen here between the real tower and the rebel tower. And at this moment in time where the world so much needs this leadership that the Aes Sedai have provided over the ages, they are completely split and at war with each other.
I like this part, just kind of going back to what Jake said earlier, it just highlights their arrogance a little bit, because Swan comes in and has to play a part that she doesn't want to play, but is manipulating, these kind of manipulating events to how she wants. She gets in charge of the spy network and still gets to be involved, even though she's been stilled. And it's just because the Aes Sedai she's manipulating are so arrogant. They're like, oh, this girl's still, there's no way she could be, she's not what she once was, right? And so
Yeah.
I like seeing that aspect of it, and I like that for, like I said earlier, Swan's character, and that she's dedicated to that.
Do you think that she was so bent on getting back in, having a purpose? Do you think she wanted to do that in order to help the Aes Sedai and help the cause? Or do you think it was so she herself could continue to have power? Or do you think it was just so she could continue to live? Because without access to Saladar, she was going to slowly die. So there's a lot of different motivations here.
Yeah, my top two motivations, I think, is what driving her is, I don't think she really cares about the Aes Sedai as much as what they mean for her and helping Rand, or like, because her dedication is to make sure the world doesn't fall apart. and grooming the Dragon Reborn to that end. I think she doesn't care as much that the Aes Sedai are all whole and happy, just that they're what's needed to do that. And then, yeah, I think there is some personal, like she wants the power and the to be involved. And
So who's more altruistic, Moraine in what she was doing, or Swan in her performance here?
Moraine, I think.
I see them as equal. I see them both. They're both in different positions, but with the same goal in mind. They're just trying to make sure the world survives, and they're willing to do whatever it takes to get there. And I think Swan is just used to having power, and it's interesting to see her frustrations with how she has all these plans and this knowledge, and in her mind she knows how to use it perfectly, but she can't because she doesn't have all that power anymore. So I think
Right,
she's used to just having people do what she says, so that's kind of like a natural thing to slip into.
right.
But I feel like her motivations are pretty pure. I think, like you said, she doesn't care about the Aes Sedai factions. I'm sure she hates Elida right now, but she's not on this like revenge streak. She's like, okay, we just need to do whatever it takes to survive, and Elida probably isn't a part of that.
It's like if you take a CEO and boot him out of their company and then bring him back in as an intern, they're not going to be happy there, and they've got all this knowledge of how to run things, and so they've got to find some way. Swan's got to find some way to make herself useful, and I think some of it's for her own personal happiness, but a lot of it is to help the world. And so props to Swan for despite having everything that she's known her whole life taken away from her, really quickly she makes a really quick comeback.
Yeah, good pivot with the
Yeah,
CEO analogy.
yeah, absolutely, great pivot. Yeah. So I guess we didn't mention Morghese at all. So Morghese had been held captive by Gabriel, who's really Robin, and the word around the street is that Morghese is dead. We know that's not really the case. She's on the run with Talonvor and a couple of her, I think Liney, like her nursemaid, is also with them, right? But the word is that she's dead, and so Rand is like, I'm going to avenge Morghese because she is Elaine's mother, and also we can't have the Forsaken messing with the leaders of my nations like this. So maybe a little bit of arrogance from Rand on his part, but Rand says I'm going to go off with my guys here, with my strike force, to Caemlyn to stop this, to put Gabriel down. But before this happens, and this is kind of when the climax starts, Lanfear discovers that Rand and Aviendha are more than friends.
Wait. Before we hit there, you have to talk about Matt and his girlfriend.
Oh, well, this kind of happens at the same time, right? Matt's attempts for love with Melindra don't work out either. Melindra, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And so she is a dark friend and tries to kill him, and Matt kind of accidentally kills her.
Self-defense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other details that we need to mention there?
Just that I saw that coming. Come on. We knew she was bad.
All right. Props to Kaden.
Thanks. Okay, we can go on now.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So
yeah,
Matt,
the more interesting part is Lanfear, right? Yeah. Next morning, they go out to the docks.
The fateful docks, and Lanfear. Right. Lanfear discovers that Rand and Aviendha are cuddle buddies, and that's not cool because she wanted to be with Lews Therin the whole time, and so she attacks them. She's finally had it. She's finally gone past the crazy part of the hot crazy scale, and she's lost it completely. She starts torturing, I think, Egwene and Aviendha, and she's about to overcome them and Rand and basically kill them all. And with no other options available to her, Moraine sacrifices herself by jumping at Lanfear and pulling her through the Terangriel, the redstone doorway where the elfin, I think it's the elfin, might be, yeah, I want to say elfin. Anyway, this is where Matt got his spear, and they fall through, the doorway melts, Land's bond to Moraine is broken, and Moraine and Lanfear have died, both of them.
Supposedly.
So good question. Have they? Because there's a lot of hints that they have. Like the bond between Warder and Aes Sedai have been broken here.
And didn't the doorway melt or something?
Yeah, yeah. The doorway melts. So how are they going to get out of it? Even if they were alive, like they're stuck. If they were alive, or if they're dead, they're just dead.
Even if they survived the passage, like they didn't go in there. Like we learned that Matt went in there all gung ho and didn't do it right, and they tried to kill him. Like
It's not an ideal situation. I don't think they're dead.
I don't think it's an ideal situation.
I just think like there's that tower in one of the previous books with Slayer, right? Like just because they went to the world doesn't mean that they're dead, and it.
Sure. Okay. I mean, yeah, we've seen heroes spun out in the pattern before, so who knows?
Lanfear's character is too good to just be gone this early, and I think that her like chaos and wanting or hating of Lews Therin will be more important in later books.
but what about like all the foreshadowing to Moraine, not being there? Like, could you? Well, first of all, this question, I guess, could you tell from the way she was like handing out those letters? Like, were you picking up that something big was going down right then, or?
Yeah, very much. Like she's gonna die. Yeah, hands down. I was like,
I did
she's.
not pick when I first read that. I did not pick it up at all. I was like, "Oh, Moraine has some letters for people." Okay, totally blindsided me.
And the letters say that she had seen her future, and this was a possibility that was going to happen. So she saw her own death.
And it turned out that she saw it. It worked out the best way. Like there were three options, right? She said that she saw, and this one was the only one that it was the best outcome of all of them, right?
No. There was one option where Lanfear only died.
Oh, was there?
I think that was the ideal situation that you were mentioning.
I think she saw. I think she saw 14 million in like 96, right? Different possible futures.
That's right, but only one. There was
Yeah.
only one way.
Yeah. Is there going to be a scene at the end like where she comes back, then like raises a finger at Rand, and then they know? Is that what's going to happen?
That's right.
Yeah. Is Avenger still cool, guys? I don't know.
Avengers is way cool, man. I'm rewatching a lot of the movies on Disney Plus
I
because
should
I'm
do
super
that.
bored during
Yeah.
Corona. I need movies. There's no more movies coming out. There haven't been movies for months now.
You should
Sad
watch
day when
Dark,
Top Gun
dude.
just got postponed.
I've been telling you to watch Dark for so long. Obligatory plug for Netflix's German sci-fi show Dark. Everyone go watch it. It's amazing.
I wish I knew how to say something snarky in German at you right now. Yeah, I'll watch it eventually for sure, man.
Anyway,
I know this yellow raincoat's really important.
you know nothing.
All right, we'll tune into Dark. I think Kaden, you were saying the Black Widow got delayed as well. That's
Oh
unfortunate.
no, I was saying Top Gun.
Oh, Top Gun.
More
Yeah,
important than Black Widow.
Top Gun's great. Oh yeah, Top Gun 2.
Got delayed to like next June or something. I was upset.
it'll be that much cooler. Anyway, let's go back to Wheel of Time here. So Moraine and Lanfear, they're both gone. So Rand is mourning this. This is really kind of the beginning of the climax here. And I think Kaden, you sent me another text after this happened. I don't have it pulled up, but it was another kind of freak out text where like, Moraine is gone, the doorway thing. So that was also shocking, obviously. So, but now the assault on Caemlyn is going to happen, and Rand skims there. So this is something that he's been doing a bit, but he opens this portal. They stand on the platform. They zoom across. I think Matt says something like, "Oh, this is worse than the ways." And Asmodean kind of looks at him like, "You're crazy." And Matt is a little bit crazy. Anyway, when they appear, Robin's very first strike takes down Aviendha, and that's all Kaden noticed. But in the background, Asmodean and Matt were also killed.
See, the other side of that too is I would have been a lot more than like, oh yeah, all three of these main characters died. They're gonna come back, right? But just thinking that was Aviendha, it felt a lot more real in the final battle because I'm like, oh yeah, he could kill off one major character and the world would go on. So that actually made the final battle for me a lot more real, thinking that it was only one of them that had died.
So you think if you had realized Matt died then that you're like, okay, something's gonna happen.
Yeah, could be hindsight bias, but I feel like Matt is an important enough character and is definitely in later books. So I would have been like, oh, something's gonna happen here.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're saying since you just saw 5 characters die, you're like, no way, did all 5 of these guys really die?
That's what I would have thought. Like, who knows? Because I didn't read it like that. But I think I would have, if I had seen all these characters died, realized they had all died like that, been like, okay, hang on, something's gonna happen here that's gonna bring them all back, right? They're not really dead.
Yeah, when I first read it, I didn't realize that they had all died either. I just figured they were like hurt and knocked out
Right.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a criticism of the way this was described. Like, it would have been stronger if there was a moment where Rand could have like bent over their bodies and started weeping or something, and then turned towards Robin with anger in his eyes and fire blazing, and went to strike him down,
I don't
something like
know.
that.
When I first read it, I was just like, shoot, this is the climax. I have to read this as fast as possible. So I wouldn't fault the writing there. More my reading experience.
It's a terrible strategy. You can't read that fast. You have to enjoy the
It's too
climax.
exciting, man.
I think it just goes to him like only looking at Aviendha again to see that she's dead. Like he checks her pulse or whatever, but he doesn't even glance at the other two, right, or the other ones. And so that's when you're like, oh, maybe they're okay. Because if he had just like even looked at it and been like, oh yeah, they're dead too.
He definitely looked at. There's some mention of Matt.
Yeah,
Does he say Matt's boots were like smoking? I remember
yeah,
smoking boots.
yeah. And Osmodian was charred or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is from a lightning strike that comes down. And so luckily we have some help arriving in the form of Nynaeve, who's been helping Swan learn the world of dreams, and Mohidian is spying on them again. And with Brigette's help, Nynaeve is able to best her and capture her with the Adam. And then Mohidian reveals to Nynaeve right away that Rand is walking into a trap. So Nynaeve and Mohidian travel then to Caemlyn, trying to help. Although really no plan here. We're just like, we got to help Rand. So very noble gesture here. Luckily, this works out really well because Nynaeve's able to distract Robin long enough for Rand to slay him with balefire. And the shot of balefire is like a mega shot, and it is so powerful that it reverses time long enough for the death of Aviendha and Asmodean and Matt to be reversed, and they are back alive, and we have won the day. So this was a really good climax, I thought, at least.
Yeah, I love the intertwining plots of Nynaeve's points of view and then Rand's point of view and how it all came together.
I like that Robin wasn't like the battle was cool at the end. I felt like in previous books it was a little less like you weren't quite sure what was happening either. You didn't realize like in book 3 that they'd gone to Teleron Riode, or at least I didn't know that as a first time
Yeah,
reader. And so there's some stuff you don't know. Where this one you kind of know what's at stake and where they are and what's going on. And it was drawn out. There was real danger on both sides to Nynaeve and to Rand. So yeah, you're invested and worried, and it's keeps you on the edge of your seat.
Multiple Forsaken involved as well. I think in book 2, the conflict in book 2 is also in the world of dreams. Yes, Jake?
pretty much all of them end up in the world of dreams, except for book 4, I guess. Maybe book 4 did too. I don't remember when they're in Meridian.
Mm,
But book 1 did for sure. Book 2 did when he's like in the clouds and stuff. Book 3 did
yeah.
because Perrin was in the world of dreams as well at the time.
And yeah, like you say, there's a real sense of danger here. I think Nynaeve says, Rand, you're in here too strongly. You've entered in the flesh. You got to get out of here. Rand starts like turning into animals. He starts looking like Luz Theron, who's also trying to always seize control here. So there's a lot going on, but we're able to kind of navigate things enough to make it out with, lives restored, etc. And it seems like we're kind of moving into the next book on a fairly good note. There's a few loose ends to wrap up here. So Nynaeve is promises to Mohidian she's going to find her in the real world. So we'll see what happens there. Towards the end, a new plot is kind of starting as Lord Bashir from Saldea arrives in Caemlyn. He's hunting down Taim, who is another false dragon, and he, offers to help out Rand as well. And Rand says, "Well, actually, we're just going to make an amnesty for all men who can channel." And so this means something going forward. We'll see. And then finally, Asmodean, he really does die or something happens to him. But I mean, he dies, right? He walks into a closet and he says something like, "What, you?" And then he's gone, and we can't find him anywhere. Yeah, he's dead. So who killed him? I don't know.
Oh man, I still don't know. I've been thinking about this the whole time.
We told Kaden at the start of the podcast he had to come up with a theory by the end.
All right.
Okay, before you say anything, this will be a good thing to do in the next episode, is we should look back on Theoryland, look back on old theories people had while the books were coming out, and pick ones that were made at the time of the publication of the book we're reviewing, and present them to Kaden and see which one he buys into. They can be theories that end up being true or false. Because I wish I could.
Okay.
This is one thing that there's so many theories about before the end of the series, and I wish I had them all to kind of give you little breadcrumbs here.
There are literally bumper stickers that say "Who killed Asmodean." I've seen them on vans before.
In real life?
Yeah, these vans also feature many different Stormlight Archive stickers.
Huh.
And Lord of the Rings and D&D and Game of Thrones. These vans tend to have a lot of stickers on them.
Are these vans parked in your garage right now?
Not yet. But if the Way of Kings Kickstarter gets to over $6 million, then I will be receiving a bumper sticker, which will go on my van.
All right, Kaden, we bought you enough time. What's your theory?
All right, so it could either be one of the Forsaken showing up and killing him. It could be one of my guess is it's one of the Aiel. There's a couple of the Father Eyes Mai that are always around Rand. Could be one of them that's you think they're really super loyal to him and actually dark friend in disguise and not been hinted at yet at this point.
There's lots of dark friends in disguise.
At that point, I'm trying to think of who was actually in Caemlyn at that point. It seems like there was just Aiel, Matt, Aviendha.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's in Caemlyn, huh?
So I was trying to think back to earlier books and thinking who's in the palace in Caemlyn that I haven't thought of, but that's my thoughts there.
And Robert Jordan has infamously said that if you put the clues together and look closely, it is obvious who killed him. Come on.
I think there are hints. Now looking back, I think there are hints from this book and the previous book.
Let's look in Theoryland and see if we can find a correct theory at the time of publication.
Yes. Something I'd like to bring up is in the beginning of book 4, Matt goes into the question door frame, and one of his answers was he needed to live or die and live again. Did you catch that through this read through?
I thought that had already happened when he was hung back in book 3.
Yeah, before, I thought so too.
I thought so too, but that's not it. It's talking about this moment.
Oh.
But didn't he literally die?
He didn't literally die before.
He didn't. Yeah, he didn't die all the way.
I guess not all the way. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, because there was no magical thing that brought him back to life before,
Yeah, it was just CPR.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I had not caught that. I thought it had already happened.
So one of his answers fulfilled. Little check mark there.
I guess that would be the Rand and Matt farce nose moment. Was Rand giving him mouth to mouth ever to bring him back? Does that qualify?
You do whatever you can to bring back your friend.
I think he just counted on his chest. I don't think there was,
Very manly CPR, I'm sure. All right, that's a wrap for this book. I mean, there were some more loose ends that we didn't really talk about as much, but I think we covered the majority of the plot points. So now we hop into our favorite segment, the top 3 and bottom 3. We're going to quickly go through our ratings of characters in this book, The Fires of Heaven. So you guys have to come with your top 3, and not in terms of who's the best looking or most powerful. This is who performed the best and what they were trying to do. So you could have good players, bad people, whatever. Anyone can be on here. So let's start with our top 3. Let's start positive. And Jake or Kaden, which one of you guys wants to go?
Let's hear Jake's this time.
I always come up with these on the fly, so I'm trying to come up with them. I would say number 3, Swan Sanche. I think she really showed her strengths, being reduced to basically nothing, using just her wits. She was able to figure out it was this book where she figured out where the rebel Aes Sedai were, right? And Saladar, and then
Yeah, they made it to Saladar.
her plots, like realizing that she can lie, and so the little lies she drops to get people to do what she wants without having them lie. You know what I mean? When it comes to the Red Aja stuff and Logain, I think that was like executed almost flawlessly. So I would say her. She did really good. Next up, let's say Aviendha. Aviendha did great this book as well. I really like her overcoming her fear / love of Rand, and then at the battle on the tower, her and Egwene were really effective channelers. Probably number one. Man, I don't know. It's a tough one. Rand is so powerful, but also, and like him bringing back Matt and Aviendha from the dead, that's a huge win. But I'm gonna say Nynaeve. I'm gonna say Nynaeve. All three
Okay.
women in
Yep.
this book. Nynaeve, again, being able to overcome the weaknesses that developed in this book, with her feeling so awkward and embarrassed with what she did to Brigitta, or what she like sees as her fault with Brigitta, and then overcoming that completely, stepping back into the world of dreams and imprisoning a Forsaken in a cooler way too, way cooler than how Rand imprisoned Asmodean. First of all, a higher quality Forsaken is captured. Second of all, in a way cooler way.
And Rand didn't even really do it. Lanfear did it for him, right?
Yes.
Yeah. He snipped the cord. That's it, right?
Yeah. What were the exact details? And anyway, yeah, solid top three. Three women.
Yeah.
Very modern. Thank you, Jake.
All right. So for mine, number 3, I'm going to go with Matt in this one for all his battle skills. And it might not have been his original intention, right, to go and fight the battle, but as soon as he was there, he took charge and just, yeah, made a huge impact there. Number 2 is Moraine, and I was debating between her and number 1. I really like Moraine in this book. I like that she was willing to die, to make sure that, or potentially die, so that Rand can, go on with his destiny.
Yep.
And that's why I think, going back to your altruistic question, I just thought that overall her motives were a little bit more pure. To disagree a little bit with Jake in versus Sue on there.
Yeah, and she put her money where her mouth was by
Yeah.
sacrificing herself. Yeah.
Yep. And then yeah, number 1, I'd go with Nynaeve again. Just really enjoyed her progression overall. And then in the final battle, like with Mogideon, she was like, through the Adam, Nynaeve knew she was terrified and like, we got to get out of here, and freaking out. And you're like, hey, if this Forsaken is like terrified that she wants to run away as fast as possible, and Nynaeve's like, yeah, forget it, we're going in. So that was really cool. And again, back to like her overcoming the fear. Like, she went from being terrified of the world of
Yeah.
dreams to capturing Mogadeen, and then going against that fear and to help Rand. So that was a big pull for me for her for number 1.
I'm going to trade out Aviendha and put in Moraine in my list.
Oh, so okay.
Yeah.
Still the show of solidarity with
Yeah.
with the women there, but Aviendha doesn't make it in.
Yeah, Aviendha, all she did was run away to some far snows. As important as that was.
All right, for me, I'm going number 3. Number 3. I'm going with Perrin Ibarra. What? Perrin's not even in the book. Well, guys.
Ooh, twisty.
If you thought that Far Snows was a fade to black, Perrin is on his honeymoon right now, and this is an epic fade to black because he's out for the entire book. So he must be
Nice.
having a really good time here as Lord of the Two Rivers.
Woof. Yeah.
So yeah, for that reason, Perrin is making it into number 3. Yeah.
Can we get a wolf howl?
I think after that, Jake, you have to put Aviendha back in your top.
Nah. I mean, he just made Aviendha look more pathetic. Perrin's got a whole book fade to black. She's got what, like a page?
And Perrin, I mean, say what you will about Perrin and Fael's relationship, but they're married. They're man and wife. This is lawful.
Yeah.
Unlike whatever, nefarious stuff Rand was involved in.
Scandal.
Yeah. I'm going to go number 2. Man, it's kind of, I'm trying to come up with something original here, but I really like yours. I think Moraine and Nynaeve, like, I don't see there's any way to keep these guys out of 1 and 2. for me. I mean, Rand also, but Rand didn't always do the best in this one. So I'm going to go number 2, Nynaeve, and number 1, Moraine. Because of Moraine's sacrifice, really here, I thought it was awesome. And number 2, Nynaeve, because of a lot of the reasons you discussed with the character growth. One thing with Moraine, I think it's interesting, between Game of Thrones and Wheel of Time, I guess. Can I say this? This is like minor spoilers for season 1 of Game of Thrones, but we'll just say the headlining star of the show. You have Sean Bean in Game of Thrones, and
Yeah, Rosamund Pike.
yeah, Rosamund Pike for Wheel of Time, and neither one are around as long as you think they might be, based off of the big name.
Percentage book wise, they're probably around the same amount of time, right? No, Moraine's still in there longer. She's in there for about a third of the series, and he's in there for like a fifth of the series, I guess.
Well, based off the number of books in the series, I mean, we'll see if 6 or 7 ever get written.
Yeah.
Actually, today is a significant day in Fantasyland because it's July 29th, and 1 year ago, George R. R. Martin tweeted out that if the book was not out by this date, then his fans could imprison him in a cabin, in a shack, and it's not out. I think it was like a year ago. Anyway, he threw this date out there, and so I'm sure that fans are like trying to hunt him down right now and demand Winds of Winter. Anyway, that's getting away from it. Let's talk bottom 3. So where are we at? Kaden, bottom 3 for you?
All right. I'm actually going to put Rand as number 3 here. And Rand kind of goes back every like other book to me as being like really powerful, knows what he's doing, and then goes the next book it's like, oh, actually hang on, he's going insane and is not as strong as you think. And then the next book he's like, oh yeah, I'm actually powerful and things are going great. So he's back and forth. And on this one he was kind of on a slump for me where during the battle with the Aiel he was exhausted and overexerted himself and he wasn't able to protect from the lightning from Samael. And then I just disagreed with him going after Ravine, like right after Moraine had died or disappeared. And I'm like, I thought they should like take a step back and, calm down, not be so emotional and rush into it. So I disagreed with a couple of his decisions there.
I mean, as a reader, it's easy to be a little more dispassionate, but also these characters are all extremely hot-headed.
Yeah, it's true.
It worked out.
It did work out.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, overall, I felt like he
Barely.
went downhill from the previous book, where it felt like he was more powerful and like had things under control.
Yeah, his plans went really well in book 4.
So that's why he's a 3. He's definitely not anywhere near 2 or 1, but maybe sliding in there 3. So for 2, let's see. Moghedien is in there for me somewhere in the bottom 3, where she seemed like she should be pretty formidable. And maybe this is just because Nynaeve is so awesome and how she captured her. But I thought she kind of just monologued and got taken by surprise. And if she had just capitalized on Nynaeve being weakened, she shouldn't have been captured. And so her plans kind of fell apart pretty dramatically when she clearly shouldn't have happened.
Classic villain monologuing. Never gets old.
Yep.
And it's like the same thing that happened in book 4 too.
Yep, exactly.
Like, you think she would have learned.
And then number 1, Liandrin. I'm pretty sure it was in this book where she tries to attack Moghedien behind her back. I think, pretty sure it was this book. And then Moghedien teaches her a lesson and she gets owned. And up to this point in the book, you've hated her and, she's one of the Black Aja that's so formidable. And now she kind of just was like dust compared to Moghedien. So that's why she's number 1 on my, trying to go outside the box here a little bit in the bottom 3.
I would say, does Egwene even do anything in this book?
No, she was a contender in my final 3.
Not a whole lot, no.
I'm trying to think, does she have some big breakthroughs with being a dreamer? Like, anything I don't think that anything really happens. I don't know. So I'm going to say
she's kind of there. Yeah, that works.
I'm going to put her as a 3, not because she like failed at anything as much as, I mean, she did get owned by Lanfear, but everyone did. But like, I don't remember anything.
Generally boring. Yeah.
I like her as a character in general. She just wasn't a highlight of this book at all. Number 2, I was going to, Moghedien is a good pick, but I think I'm going to go with Lanfear just because, man, she had everything she was like dominating the scene, and then she needs to see a therapist or something. She just did not
Yeah.
she did not handle her emotions well right then.
Few do. Few can in Randland.
And then number one has got to be Asmodean. He gets killed twice in the span of like 30 pages.
Come on, man. Yeah. Very, very lame Forsaken.
Honestly, I like the idea of him like being Rand's teacher, but he doesn't. What did he do? Like he taught him a couple weaves.
I feel like Robert Jordan realized he did not like the idea of him being Rand's teacher.
Yeah, it's like, screw that. I feel like he taught him some basic things, like reiterated how to skim, and like didn't he teach him like how to do some illusions or something?
He
I
taught
don't
him how
know.
to like ward his dreams
Ward his dream.
and do other wardings like around the camps and stuff
Yeah.
like that. There were some small things that he said that he taught, but nothing
Yeah.
like
I was
nothing
expecting
great.
like a power jump with Rand, right? Between book 4 and
Right.
5, which I guess there was in terms of raw power, but not like technical ability didn't really increase that much.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
All
that's
right. I'm gonna go number 3. Can we just like throw Elaine in there as our, she's always got to
De
be in the bottom
facto.
3. Yeah. She gets bossed around by Nynaeve too much and is a general snot
She did get a
to
warder.
everyone.
She get a
Yeah,
warder.
she saves Brigitte or
Yeah.
Brigitta. Yeah.
All
I
right.
don't know. None of us are huge Elaine fans, so there she is. Number 2, I'm going with Couladin. What was his plan with the Aiel? Seemed kind of, talk about hot-headed. Yeah, probably not a great move, and he gets owned by a dude who doesn't even really want to be fighting there in the first place. So that was pathetic, man.
Yeah.
Let's just follow our rightful leader here in Randall Thor. Disappointing for Couladin. And number 1, yeah, it's Lanfear. I'm with you, Jake. I think she just went too far on the crazy side, and once again was unable to rein it in, and revealed herself. She had played in the shadows for so long. She could have, continued to maybe manipulate things, but couldn't handle it anymore. Outed herself and got taken down.
Or she could have just killed everyone there. She could have taken out Moraine, Egwene, Aviendha. Like I think there's some wise ones there. Like she could have taken out everyone and just like that would have been a huge blow.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. This was fun. This was our Fires of Heaven review. We will we'll get into book 6, which Kaden is, I think, already into. So
Yep.
We're looking forward to that in the near future. Book 6 is Lord of Chaos.
Lord of Chaos.
Yep. It's the one where he's wearing the puffy shirt on the cover, right?
Book 6 is pretty good.
I don't have the cover.
That's a Seinfeld reference. But in the cover, he's wearing this like flowing white shirt with the open
pirate
neckline.
shirt.
Yeah, the pirate shirt.
Yeah, the puffy shirt.
Yeah. There's some good memes of that cover with Jerry on the cover.
Nice.
It looks like it honestly looks like a romance novel cover. Like
a little bit, yeah.
The like fancy shirt, slightly unbuttoned, his chest showing, and there's a woman like this or something.
Hanging on his arm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll get into Lord of Chaos. Looking forward to that one. But if you like Phantology books, check us out on social media. Look to join our Discord and chat with us. Consider supporting on Patreon. And look for our August poll where we're going to be talking about our top duos in the fantasy realm. So Jake and Kaden, thanks, guys. Another successful Wheel of Time recording. See you guys next time.
See you later.
Yeah.